Hello, it's Mark Attwood from the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in Cosmic Suits. How are you? You well? You having fun? In Ascension? In the New Earth? In a load of shit? Energies? Insane. I don't know about you, but they are insane. But as my old nan used to say, you got to laugh, ain't you? It's Tuesday the 6th. No, it's not. It's Thursday the 6th of November. Remember, the 6th of November, said nobody at all, ever. Yeah, it's if you I don't know where you're watching this, because I got another email this morning saying my original YouTube channel has been reinstated. So I've got 3 YouTube channels now. I have absolutely no idea where to put this. Up your arse, Mark. No, I'm not going to do that. So let's crack on with the spiritual warfare by introducing a couple of people that have a galactic perspective and have been through, as most of us have, the last 5 years at least. In fact, I think they may have been around for a little bit longer than that. Let's get Katie Kiss on first. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Is this the first time you've been on my show?
This is the first time I've been on your show. I've talked to you numerous times, but this is the first time on your show.
Well, you're a former publisher in New York who doesn't drink coffee anymore, right?
Right. That's me. It was only for the month. It was only to take part in a cleansing for 30 days, and I cheated today, and now it's going to be public.
Listen, you can't do cleansing without cheat days.
You're right. You're right. It all serves your highest, your awareness, right?
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, I'm pretty healthy most of the time, but occasionally, don't tell anybody, but I do occasionally like a pizza.
Yeah, pizza was one of those things after my awakening that I didn't have for a couple of years. I was just like, this is a waste of space, and there is absolutely not a single good or beneficial grain on the planet anymore. So I cast it aside, but I've welcomed it in a little bit just because it's enjoyable.
Yeah, but the good thing is when you're actually cleaner, the body gets rid of it quicker. So, and that's what I love about it. It just goes. It's like, had it, gone, move on.
And absolutely, we're eternal, powerful beings. Anything they're throwing at us, toxins, chemicals from the air, the water, the food, we can overcome. We can essentially ascend anything they throw at us because we're more powerful than we'll ever know. Well, we will know in a couple of years, but we don't know now.
Oh, in a couple of years. So you've been you teasing us with dates there, Katie.
I will never give dates, but I do believe big things are coming for 26 and 27. I think we're going to have open contact before the end of 27.
Well, I've been having contact my whole life, but a lot of people, whenever I talk about it, they say, "Well, I wish I could see the ships, or I wish I could," and it's like, it's not a competition, guys.
You know? I understand that envy. I hear about everyone's clairs coming online, their telepathy and their clairvoyance and everything, and I'm like, well, I want some of that, but it isn't a competition. It isn't a race. We're all getting there in our divine time, and it's all perfect. It's literally divinely timed. Yeah.
It is. Talking of the clairs, I was awake at 4 a.m. this morning. Ping! Couldn't go to sleep, and because I just had an experience with the Tesla machine that Jeff Berwick talks about, because somebody came down from Belfast to Vivian. Hi, Vivian, and tried it out on us, and it was pretty. All of us were charged like Duracell bunny rabbits. It was crackers.
I love how you say Berwick's name correctly. I love it.
I just say it the way I don't. I'm usually get everybody's name wrong. I can't. It's probably the only one I've ever got right. So that's good.
Back to the open contact thing really fast. So many people will not necessarily argue with me, but correct me and say, they've always been here. And I'm saying, absolutely, they're here. They've been here. They're around us. But the open contact I'm speaking of is on a mass level where people can't argue with us any longer. They can't be like your conspiracy theorist cuckoo cuckoo.
Yeah, but if that actually happens, I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
If we were widely accepted, what would we do?
But it's what I was going to say is this morning at 4 a.m. I was just making a cup of coffee actually, and I I found myself going, yeah, hang on a second. Yeah, I'll be there in a minute. Yeah, okay. And I was talking, it was the plants talking to me. And I was like, hang on, I'm talking to plants. Oh, shit. Better not mention that on the show.
Do mention that on the show. That stuff is happening. Have you seen that trend of people coaxing with intention and love trees to come into their, like, touch them? Oh, those videos are beautiful.
No, I don't. That sounds a bit kinky to me.
There's nothing kinky about it. It's so cool, though.
There's nothing kinky about being touched by wood.
Well, when you put it that way, I suppose.
Yeah, I can't resist the jokes, but even if they're shit like that one. No, and what I was trying to get across really was the subtlety of it all. I mean, the communication with the plants and the trees and everything is subtle. You have to quieten yourself, and it's the same with the ships. You've just got to be in the right frequency, and there's no such thing as time and distance for these guys. So it's an instant. Just keep doing it. Most of you guys watching will know the protocol that I've been sharing with people for 3 or 4 years now, which was sent to me by email, and I've been sharing that out. I haven't got time to do that now because we've only got an hour, and I just want to say it's great to see you actually on my show, and thank you for all your support over the years. And now my old YouTube channels have been reinstated. I think that means you're still an admin on one of them, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I was an admin three or 4 years ago, and it was in my darkest hours, and you were a lifeline for me and making me admin. I'm like, oh, somebody has such faith in me as I'm crumbling to the ground, and it meant so much. And then it was canceled, and I was like, oh, there that goes.
Well, and I appreciate that support, and I it's a funny thing doing this public job. You get a lot of weirdos, and you get a lot of stalkers, and you get a lot of strange stuff, but you also meet a lot of amazing people, and I just knew you were a good one. So that was why you got the amazing unpaid job of admin. Oh, nice book.
Yeah, you sent that to me after I became your admin. I was so happy.
Did I? I don't even remember doing that.
Oh, heck yeah.
Ah.
Right?
Oh, that's nice. I recognize that spider writing across there. That's good.
Like you're a doctor or something. Ooh, bad word. Don't say that.
No. There's no bad words. There's only bad intentions.
True.
Right. So you emailed me the other week because you got an interesting story about somebody you've met that's had a big, profound effect on you. Do you want to explain what that is, please?
Sure. Absolutely. So long story short, 2019, after 25 years, I went off of antidepressants. I'm absolutely convinced that sped up my awakening, which happened in 2021. I had been following you for years, but then became closer with you, with the admin and all of that. But so you were a lifeline and really integral in keeping me here on the planet, truly. And then I met Gareth Jenkins, who's in Melbourne, Australia. And we met on some call unrelated to spirituality. So I thought it was about the financial kind of white hats, what's being built in the background as our current financial systems crumble. Amen. And we talked once, and we've been talking sometimes daily ever since 3 years later. His story, I didn't know what happened to me with my awakening. It almost killed me. I didn't want to be here. I didn't understand everything I was looking at. They talk about the veil being lifted, but for me, I now saw everything through a veil. The programming was in everything. I was essentially Neo in the Matrix, and I could see the programming in architecture, in media, in food, in clothing. It overcame my body, but in such a good way too, because my discernment came online. And so I can feel goodness. I can feel truth. I don't have an explanation for the things that I know that are coming or the things that are here now. I don't have an explanation, but the time for evidentiary proof is over. F that. This is a spiritual war. Everything is spiritual. Nothing is not. So Gareth's story, when I heard it, I could hear things 3 years ago today that I didn't understand 3 years ago, simply because my capacity and my awareness is at the divine place where I could hear those things. And his story with Arcturians and God, and just my body buzzed from head to toe. And 3 years later, we've been talking ever since. He's magical, miraculous, has no reason to share this. There's no monetary angle. There's nothing but purity and goodness coming from this man. And I've been sharing him around the world, and we're on a podcast together, and his story is incredible.
Should we get him on?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Hello, Gareth Jenkins. Got to be Welsh.
Yes.
Hey.
Yes, both sides. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Mark, great to meet you. I've been following you also for years, and so it's great to finally meet in person, because what epic. And Katie, thank you so much for that.
You heard all that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
I didn't realize.
Well, welcome to the
you.
show, Gareth.
I love you too.
Thanks. Great to be here. What a time we're in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So what's your story, Gareth? What's the thing that's inspired Katie so much?
Yeah, well, that was timing, beautiful timing. I mean, this is really the story of my life, and I mean, look, it's pretty epic. So I'll try and condense it down as much as I can. But basically, I was born with a gift called clear sight, which was called that later in my life. But really, I would go into, now I know, I would slip into 5D. I had no control over it, but I would slip into a full 5D consciousness anywhere. And that's been happening. The first one was when I was 18 months old. And I can remember that night I had an accident. I was taken to hospital because I was poisoned with creosote, and that nearly killed me. But obviously it didn't. Now I can remember the night it happened like it was yesterday, and that was my first memory. And then when I was 2, I had another one where I was crossing a room. My mum had taken me to a friend's place. This is about 6, maybe 9 months after that accident, something like that. And I flip into 5D as I'm crossing a room going towards open French windows. And I can see everything outside the window. This was in the UK, by the way, where I was born, before we moved to Australia when I was 4. And I could see the sunlight, the leaves, the colour of everything, the form of everything. And I was humming a song, just like kids do, humming a song, wasn't thinking, but my chest was vibrating. And I saw the frequency that I was singing was coming through me. And it was the same frequency as everything I was looking at. Everything was a single frequency that just fractalized out into form, that there was nothing to do or be. It was simply about exploring all the form that frequency can take, that we are and everything is. It's all one. And the separation had a purpose, just to explore infinite form. And then my mum's friend and her were sitting on a couch behind me. And she said to my mum, "Does he remember anything?" Meaning 6 months earlier. And she said, "No, he doesn't seem to." And I knew straight away they could only see a boy humming. And if I got caught up in how they thought about reality, I would lose that connection too. So that stayed with me all my life. And then all through my life, I had all sorts of different experiences as a child. And one of the key ones was I could be in the middle of doing something. Like, I remember being in my brother's bedroom. I was probably about, about 7 or 8. We were talking away and we were building something with Lego, just kids. And then flip into 5D, I go very quiet and still, and I just stare. And I knew I had to be at a place in the forest behind our house. And it was always the same place. So I would go there and lie on my back and look up through the trees at the clouds. And I would kind of go into a hypnotic state, I guess, like just drop into my body, and a wild hawk would land in a tree right next to me to my left and put its head sort of sideways. So we'd lock left eye to left eye, and I'd switch off and then switch back on again and then go home. And that happened repeatedly. And then when I was 9, I fell off a 3-story roof. And as I fell, I was lowered to the ground. I was lying in a hand, pardon me, a giant hand. and slowly lowered to the ground. And in front of me were 9 images, like holographic images in a vertical strip. And it was humanity, the history of the universe, the reality of the universe, the history of humanity in relationship, the whole thing. It was like, it was too big to take in. Every image I went into, it was massive. And then I hit the ground, but without any impact. It's like I couldn't feel it. And this is a building site. So I landed on bricks and glass, not even a bruise. I barely felt it. And I just got up and walked home. And so all of this sort of happened. And then fast forward to about 93, I was a professional musician at the time. And when I was 18, I got glandular fever, which ended up giving me chronic fatigue, which I didn't really know. And because I wasn't working a standard job, I could kind of handle it better than if I had to get up, say, 7 in the morning every day. It would have hit me harder sooner. But eventually I just couldn't really function. So my life basically fell apart. I woke up in the middle of the night pretty alone in a house, saying out loud, if this is all there is to life, I could die right now and I wouldn't care. And I kind of snapped awake on that last word, and it hit me how much I felt that way. It was like everything, every cell was saying it. And then I had this sort of cascade memory of all the clear sight experiences I'd had. And I knew I could ask for help. So I did. And I've always been instinctively anti-religion, but very spiritual, just because of these experiences. So I actually got out of bed and knelt on the floor and said, I don't know who you are or where you are or what you are, but I know that you are. Please help. And even though I was numb, I kind of knew I'd been hurt. So I decided I had a problem. I didn't know what it was. So what did I know about what to do? I would just let go of control. I instinctively knew just to stop strategizing and let go of control. So I would literally walk out the door, shut my eyes, left or right. If I saw an L, I wouldn't argue. I'd just turn left, and I would keep doing that, left or right, and I'd move through life like that, basically. And doing that one day, I ended up in a bookshop in the city of Melbourne, and I was handed a book by a guy behind the counter called The Only Planet of Choice. He said, you need to read this. As soon as I walked in the door, we locked eyes. And if it's a channeled book, came out in, I think, 93, just before I had this experience. It was only around 6 months old, I think, at the time. And it was channeled between, I think, 51 and 91 by a deep trance medium called Phyllis Schlemmer, who channeled a being who identified himself as Tom, spokesman for the Council of Nine. But the sessions were audio recorded, so it's quite an unusual book. The editor transcribed or compiled it from audio recordings. So it's written like a script, guest, question, Tom, answer, etc. So the first thing I read is, greetings, blessings, and joy. We are here. This is Tom. And I knew straight away what I asked for help from was talking in the book. So it had a profound effect on me. And so I took off doing the same thing left to right. I actually ended up buying a one-way ticket because I'm a dual citizen from between Australia and the UK to UK. And I ended up living in the UK for about 3.5 years and doing the same thing. If I felt like the urge to move, and I did this in London, then I would just move. I was living in London. I'd met a girl. We had an apartment and we were just living. And I just said one day I came home and I knew I had to keep moving. I couldn't explain why. I just said, I'm sorry, but I love you, but I need to go. And she said, I know. So I moved to Glasgow in January. And if anyone's been in the winter in the Baltic weatherfront, that's like, I remember Tom saying at one point, sometimes wisdom looks like foolishness and foolishness looks like wisdom. But by doing that, I moved to Glasgow in January. I actually met a guy who had the phone number of the editor of the book randomly. I get off a bus and walk into a room and there's a guy, he stares at me and says, you know that book? I say, you know that book? So he gave me the phone number. And so I rang, there's a woman called Mary Bennett. So I rang her up, and it was like the first time in my life, because I've never been able to talk to anyone about any of this. I instinctively knew not to, but what do you say? Anytime I tried, it was just too much of a reality shift for anyone to take in. So I was alone in it all, trying to sort of also put it all together. It's the first time in my life I didn't have that. It was just like we could finish each other's sentences. So 2.5 hours later, she said to me, look, I've got to go to London, but call me back in a week. I'll be back then, call me back. When I did that, this time I was just talking away, just thinking, great, I've got someone I can talk to about this. The book had a profound effect on me, and it was helping me put two and two together, basically. But she was quite quiet. And then she stopped me halfway through a sentence and said, tell me, Gareth, who do you think Tom is? And I went through in a split second all the ways you can say God without saying God, to get around all the need to caveat everything in political bloody correctness. And I felt this flash of anger, like, no, they're not going to win. So I said, well, God, who else can he be? And she said, I can tell you most people don't know that. We need to meet. How soon can you get here? And she was in Wiltshire. So next day I was on a bus to Wiltshire. So I had a backpack, that was it. I just would up and go. So I ended up getting picked up there at the bus station, taken to a house, and met a group of people there. Next thing I know, I'm talking to Tom. And that was a 13-hour conversation that I was in 5D, 3D. I was in the room. There were people next to me. We were all having a conversation in the same room there was a deep trance medium, but we were all also having separate conversations in 5D at the same time, because we were part of a group that all had the same experience I had, and we connected together. So he kind of spoke about that. He said, welcome, Gareth, James, Jenkins, James, Gareth. Now, bear in mind, they only knew my name as Gareth. They didn't even know my surname. They literally, most of them had just met me. Mary only had spoken to me twice. She only knew me as Gareth. He kept saying my name backwards and forwards, and I saw it sort of rotating around the middle name. And it just 3.5 months later, I had a second conversation, and in between, I was with this group as well. So I got debriefed and brought up to speed and given an incredible amount of information, which set me up for what happened next. So he explained that there's a group called, a soul group he called the Four, Twin Flames. And that was set up by, deliberately, I was told the human race was created as a trap for a group he called those of the interference, which are behind what's happened on this planet. They infiltrated and caused the collapse of Atlantis, but that was all part of a trap. And the human race was put together and seeded by a being he called the Hawk, which is the Nazarene, who we know as Jesus. There's a reality behind that that's been edited out by this group, precisely because they don't want us to connect the dots. And this soul group was a counter move to what happened at the Roman Empire around the Nazarene. That was where the trap was triggered. So he turned up and said, turn back now, take one more step and you're done. If you turn back now, this is the human group. It's redeemable, but if you take one more step, you're done. And they executed him thinking that that would fix the problem. And in fact, it locked them into what's happening right now. There's no way out. It's done. And so he told his brother James, that's why Tom, well, God said that thing with my name, to marry the Magdalene and James, to marry and have children. He couldn't have children because of the DNA profile. His DNA, his paternal DNA was artificially inseminated using light, which is the story of the Star of Bethlehem thing. It was really a ship. And that meant that he could be fully in his energy signature, which was like the human race before the collapse of Atlantis. But it also meant that he couldn't have children at that point with any woman because the frequency mismatch. But it meant that his brother, who was born very close after him, had the same energy frequency. It was the closest thing to the Nazarene that could have children that was possible. And that was all done deliberately. So by doing that, it was a counter move to what happened with Paul, the patriarch of the Roman Catholic Church. He was basically just an undercover agent from the Roman Empire, the lying spouter. And James is the righteous teacher. He was given the job by the Nazarene to keep what happened and the reality of it alive, or keep it all secure against this counter move. And then the children set up this genetic lineage that was capable of having a soul group come in that couldn't have that full 5D connection to reality of life severed fully consciously. So what's why we all have this sort of, my version is clear sight. The females have a similar thing. it can't be fully shut down like the way it happened after Atlantis. And he told me that all self-aware life is 5-sided or 5-dimensional. So that's what's happening now. We're coming back up to the full 5D that we lost connection to around 13,000 years ago by choosing to go the dark way. We chose that. But that was all set up deliberately. So, yeah, when I came back to Australia, I met my twin flame. 25 years later, in I think it was about 2016, I started feeling two people standing behind me everywhere I went for about 2 months. And at the point in time, I was in a very low point because of the life, the twin flame soul group that we all had to live was very intense. And I could feel this presence, two people behind me. And one Saturday morning, I was sitting at home after a big week at work, feeling exhausted and really low. And I felt them flare up behind me, and then poof, two Arcturians stepped in front of me with an Aboriginal elder standing behind them, which something God told me. The last thing he said to me is, Australia is the future. And he kind of this is in 5D, he leant in and looked at me like, that's important, remember that. So this Aboriginal elder was with him. Now, two Arcturians, 9th density, that's pretty, they're incredible presence, so powerful and peaceful and loving. But this elder had just as much. It was like 40,000 years of Aboriginal culture looking at me through these eyes. And they explained that they'd been with me my whole life, and that the reason that event happened when I was 18 months old is because it was an attempt on my life, and that they'd stopped it from killing me. But the doctors told my mum I wouldn't survive the night. So that stopped that happening. They said it wouldn't have served me for them to show themselves, so they stayed in the background, but they held me all the way through it. And now it was time for me to start integrating everything. And it's been ongoing ever since. And just before Katie and I met, or not long after actually, they told me it was time to go public. I think that was a couple of years ago. So we've been heading down that road ever since. And Katie's been a great help helping me put 2 and 2 together and verbalize it. So there's plenty more in between all of that, but basically that's where I'm at right now.
Whoa. Okay. You got some strange sound effects, Katie. That's why I muted you.
No worries at all.
It might be your phone or something.
Yeah.
It was I can still hear it, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, because I had to turn it. I had to mute you so that I could hear Gareth properly.
Oh, it might be the microphone.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll hold it out. Thank you. You could have private messaged me that.
I was too busy listening to Gareth.
I know. I wanted to private message, but I didn't want to interrupt Gareth for him to correct his name on screen. He misspelled his last name. I wrote both of you on WhatsApp.
Well, look, it's 4:00 in the morning in Australia. He's
forgiven. I know.
Gareth, there's a lot of things coming at me from that story, and thank you for sharing that. A lot of recognition from me, actually.
Great.
That noise is still there.
I pulled it out.
You're gonna need to remove something else because it's too much interference. No,
is that better?
Hang on a second. Yeah. So so a lot of connection with your story, especially them trying to take you out as a baby. Because that happened to me numerous times.
Really? Wow.
In fact, today, last night, the fuel tank in my car fell out of the bottom of the car while I was driving along the dual carriageway, and I had my daughter with me, and this metal hit the floor. It was a really loud noise, and I didn't know what it was. And anyway, long story short, my friend looked at the car this morning. He said, "You must have a guardian angel because this could have blown up any second."
Wow.
But because of my life and what I've been through, I already knew that.
Yeah. Well, exactly. That's the thing. Once you see the pattern, there's something very powerful about that too.
Yeah. Even in the video this morning I put out, I said, when your name's on the bullet, it's on the bullet. But what I meant, I didn't mean that in a kind of fatalistic, you can't do anything type way. I meant it like there's a time for everything. And we are assisted all the way through. And I've always felt assisted. So when you told that story I related to that a lot. And towards the end, I was getting what I call the tingle up and down the right side, which I do think I've thought this for quite a long time, never publicly, but I do think it's an Arcturian thing.
I wouldn't be surprised. They're a very big presence in this transition. They're huge.
Yeah. And there's been some lovely people throughout the podcast years where I've received information and gifts even that are Arcturian related that sort of are still in the house. And I did a past life regression 5 years ago on this show, and I didn't know what Arcturians were, but one of them was a very tall blue kind of healer by a waterfall next to a white city. It was gorgeous, and that apparently that was a past life. I don't know, but so I really appreciate you sharing that because it's fascinating. Where are you going with it, guys?
Well, we've started talking publicly on a podcast on Sology.
Sology.
Sology. It's it's Todd Medina or Medina, I'm not sure. We go live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time because Gareth, that was his very galactic and ethereal story, but he has real world applications, and I'm essentially living them. You guys, the two of you, have actual attacks you can remember that you have thwarted, but I've essentially been under attack for 6 years and very just suicidally, cripplingly depressed. I almost wasn't here. Mark came in, Gareth came in. I've been supported the whole way. I wouldn't have known what a co-creator I am in my own existence without the awakening. So where we're going, we're like, when you see an L, you turn left. When you see an R, you turn right. I was very happy, though, in Gareth's story when he did bring up that the 18-month-old, he can see it as if it's happening right now. And I was glad that he came back to that and said it was an attack, because at the very beginning, like, Gareth's been in his own mind with what's been happening to and for him for, over 50 years, 55, 56 years. And so he's learning how to say this to all the rest of us. So there are all these context that I wanted to give after listening to him for 3 years, because it sounds almost unreachable. But for some reason, I could hear him 3 years ago, and I could hear him like he's my brother today. And so I'm kind of like, we joke that I'm the Gareth whisperer, because what nobody can hear and understand coming from him, I present in, a more grounded, down to earth way that he's still honing.
I think that's the thing, bringing the galactic scale to the ordinary. There's a phrase that was brought to me describing reality from, I think this came from Tom, from God actually, he called it the extraordinary. He said, life is art, the extraordinary ordinariness. So that's one thing that those of the interference have hidden behind, is the galactic scale and reality of why people's life on the ground. I mean, why should a truck driver whose life's just fallen apart care about what we're talking about? It's because the reason his life is the way it is, 555, is because of what's happened on the galactic scale. Now, it's because the controlled narrative is how this whole strategy works. The fact that the narrative has been controlled for 13,000 years, how is coming out, which means at a certain point, the Arcturians showed me this. They call what's playing out the great coming together and the great falling apart. And God said, it's the manner of transition of the human race has never occurred in the history of the universe before. No other civilization in the universe is as physically dense as humanity. No other planet in the universe has the biodiversity of life as planet Earth and the racial diversity of humanity, because we're literally a genetic microcosm of the entire galaxy, which was done deliberately. So that's the trap. It was like a lure for those of the interference. If you can get this race in one go, you've got the whole, in one go, you've got the whole galaxy, instead of having to go one race at a time and flip them over so that they sever their heart connection to God and let the dark, if you like, be the motivation, the fifth dimensional creative force that allows them to operate separate from God and as powerful as God, which is really the MO. They're trying to use the human race as a way to make darkness a thing, which it is, an absence of light. So there's a real direct connection between the cosmic scale of all of this and why people's life, why they're going through what they're going. Now, how do you get the bridge? How do you get the bridge to connect that with ordinary people?
I'm glad you said the word bridge, because that's what I was going to say to you.
Yes, well, that's right. And there are a lot of people whose soul purpose, a lot of soul groups and people with soul purposes like yourself, like Cody, myself around the world who were born into a life for that. We've all been living what might seem disparate experiences for a long time, different ranges of time, but part of the great coming together is people putting two and two together within themselves as well. Oh, click, click, click.
Mm-hmm.
And
one of the things Gareth taught me that I've held on to for 3 years is that truly all eyes are on Earth right now, because as humanity has gone all the way into the darkness, we've also clawed our way out. We were duped to use our free will. Misinformed free will to choose the darkness. We're coming all the way out. And so all eyes on Earth simply means that by unshackling humanity and what's been attempted to be done to us, we unshackle civilizations around the universe. So if humanity knew what was truly happening on Earth right now, as uncomfortable and as awful of a shit show as it feels like, it is all good news coming. There is nothing to fear at all.
Well, there's one big problem with your story. It's going to cost me a lot of money.
Okay.
I'm going to have to call this Tom Wins now.
That's the other thing I wanted to say, just to be clear. He explained it, but it's something to wrap your head around, is that Tom is God. God is
Don't
Tom.
tell Tom Numbers that.
I know, right? I know. He'll run with that one.
Yes.
He'll run with it.
I've got a Tom as well.
Gareth also can explain the Tom, what it means.
And the reason for the name. Yeah. Well, in fact, and actually in the book, someone who I found out, they're written as anonymous. Some of the people are named, some are anonymous.
Gareth, sorry. I just got hit with something. Now we know why Doubting Thomas is called Doubting Thomas. Whoa. Ooh, that's a good one.
That's interesting. That's a click.
That's a
Doubting
double meaning.
Thomas. Yeah, well, boy, I tell you, speaking to people about this has been, it's like walking through a minefield. You've got to be really careful. But that time's over now, and that's why it's taken me 2 years to get my head around it. But
it really has. If you said, I mean, I went onto the website, theonlyplanetofchoice.com, and it's 1993 that book came out. I'm going to read that. That sounds really interesting. Never heard of it before.
It's phenomenal. Well, someone in the book, an archaeologist, said, "How did the Sphinx come to be named after you?" And he said, "You have found the secret. The true knowledge of that will be brought at another time, which is coming. I am Harmakos. I am Teote or Tahuti, Teote. I'm the morning, the evening, and the mid-noon." And that connects the dots, because, I mean, there are as many names for God as there are stars in the sky. It's an infinite thing. It's just it's a functional thing. But the name Om, it's a model for the universe and how self-aware life works. It's a holographic projection. So 0 point, someone else asked him, "Where are you?" He said, "The zone of cold," which is in physics absolute 0 point. Where all the laws of physics stop, light stops, and actually the universe emerges from 0 point. So every star actually has a singularity at the core of it, which science hasn't caught up with yet, I don't think. It's a key understanding to how anti-gravity works too. And all life, everything has a singularity at the core. So that upright is white light, let there be light. And then that fractalizes from the fifth dimensional out into all the colors of the rainbow. White light contains, like Katie's glasses, so it actually starts at 5D and moves to the left through time and then space, and to the right through the other 4 higher dimensions. So that's what we're coming back to. So that's the reason he used that name. And council of nine, it's a way to describe what you might know in the ancient way it's written as aeons. So, and he said, we wish you to know we are not God. You and us together make God. He said, we created you and you created us, and for that we love you. ... Do you love life as it is, or is your love conditional? Those conditions, that's the story the human race is dealing with. Self-doubt and fear of the unknown. That's how the control narrative works in each human being. We're brought through a conditional process where you're pulled out of yourself, doubting yourself, and straight away you're vulnerable to the control narrative. But the Arcturians told me in 2019, before COVID started, I think it was about January, somewhere around Christmas, after Christmas 2019, they said they came in really strongly astrally and said the final point of their plan is their most vulnerable point. They will lose control of the narrative. This will undo problem, reaction, solution. Then they showed me an image of the entire human race simultaneously having the awareness within them. If they lied about that, what else have they lied about? Then they showed me a domino effect, the whole thing, rewriting our entire history. Suddenly, all the conspiracy theories have some grain of truth in them, and there's no one on the planet can get away from that. There was no thought in anyone's belief system that was off limits to the question, yeah, but is that really true? Very disturbing, the great coming together and the great falling apart. So everybody who's already had that question, as hard as it's been, what's about to happen with the collapse of COVID, the controlled narrative, it exposes the scale of their ability to control how we think, which has never been seen before in one hit. And that's what's playing out right now.
100% agree with that. And that's the theme of all my videos this year, actually. It's just been enjoy your day, because, it's the secret to this. Are you enjoying your life? What
Totally.
You've got to enjoy it.
That last part that Gareth brought up is what I have found missing in all the spiritual teachers I've been following or talking to or belonging with in communities, is that there is a very real they with a very real agenda. And that point in time when all of humanity asks the question, if they lied about that, what else have they lied about, undoes all of our history. When you have the strength and the courage to question every single thing you have ever been taught, like, nobody wants to go there. Nobody wants to go there. You are shattering everything you thought you were, everything that was assigned to you, everything. Dinosaurs, shape of the earth, moon landing, everything is up for debate without exception.
And there's a big emotional imperative behind that, which is why you might find your families are reacting, just like Neo in the Matrix movies. Anytime he goes back into the Matrix, in crowd scenes, he's always walking the opposite direction to the crowd. And then you'll see someone in a trance suddenly go kunk, and then the agents in the Matrix, which are symbolizing conditioning, are triggered, because that self-doubt, fear of the unknown, the way God described the problem facing humanity, he called it the ego that controls lack of a belief in an absolute reality, that we have a natural state, that life has a natural state that has nothing to do with any of this. So, but getting to it means meeting the feeling that it's the opposite, that fear of the unknown, that our false ego that controls persona is formed around to manage. Really, the whole persona we think is us is more about controlling fear and getting it away and controlling life. So life is conditional. We don't take it as it is. We've got to edit where we go, how we go there, who we present ourselves as. We get so caught up in that anything that comes along that threatens the apple cart is a threat, because it's fight or flight. It's seen as a threat. It doesn't matter if it's the truth. They'll spin it whatever way they need to so that they don't have to let go of control.
Mm-hmm.
But that again, that's what the controlled narrative being exposed stops for everybody simultaneously. And it's accelerating massively right now, and it's going to keep accelerating. And that's really important for open contact. The human race needs to be at a certain point in that curve before we can have direct connection as a race with them. But once that happens, all the dots are, the missing pieces are there. But we've got to have, they said to me, we cannot do it for you. We've got to get to that point. And that's what a lot of people who have been doing this internal work without even realizing it. I guess a lot of people now are at the point where the destruction of the sense of reality that's coming next instead of it destroying our reality, we've already been there. It puts it all together. That's why the Arcturians described it as a great coming together. It's like, oh, wow, click, click, click. Like the biggest paradigm shift in the history of the human race, one that's unique in the history of the universe, that's one hell of an aha moment. That's a huge, like, click. So it's an amazing...
As the rest of the world is losing their ever-living minds about the collapse of the outside world, those of us doing the internal work are celebrating the collapse of the false reality. So it's absolutely beautiful for those of us consciously doing it.
Very.
Yeah, well, I was describing the same thing to my daughter yesterday. I was like, you know, if you're doing the work, when I hate that term as well, by the way, as I said it, I was like, oh God, that just reminds me of all these new age idiots that anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is work. It is work, because I was explaining, you know, that plant medicine is work. It's not recreational. It's hard work. I was just trying to explain that to her, and I said, yeah, and you know, nothing's stopping what's coming. It's just going to be easier for us lot than it is for other people, and there's going to be people ahead of us, and it doesn't matter. It's not a competition, but the fact that you are. There's two things that you are. One is a bridge, and I'm glad you said it first. And secondly, you're an apocalyptimist like me.
I love that. I gave that a nod. Great term, apocalyptimist.
Well, you just know. I know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's going to be better than good. He keeps telling me that for 3 years. As every day he talks me off the ledge. He's like, Katie, the depth of which you can hold the darkness and see the truth is going to be matched exponentially by the joy that's coming your way.
Oh, exactly.
So I know that's kept me held on. Like I wouldn't be here otherwise. But another thing, and I don't know if we have time for it today, the 4 pillars of the transition. And that's the real world practical application that Gareth speaks about. Okay.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, that's what happened next after I came back from the UK in '97 to Australia. A little while later, I think a few months later, I started feeling someone standing behind me everywhere I went. Middle of the night, it was weird, and I went to a workshop, a spiritual retreat center that I was at. Well, after I asked for help, I went and saw a psychologist who connected me with a group in about an hour out of Melbourne who ran a retreat center, and they did particular types of workshops, which were fantastic. Then I went to the UK. That kind of set me up for what was coming next. And when I came back, I went to another workshop. Well, in the meantime, while I was in the UK experiencing what I did with God, my now wife, twin flame, was in India with the Indian avatar Amachi. And there are always 2 avatars, a male, female, which are born awake. The Nazarene was an avatar. So she was with her in India and then came back after a massive, we both had chronic fatigue. We both got glandular fever at the same time. We both had there were a lot of mirrors. So her life she'd gone through a bit of a revolution as well. So she was living there. When she came back from India, she connected with them as well. So in the car driving up, we were like an hour and a half drive, there was this presence sitting in the car behind me, and it just got more and more intense. So by the time we got there, I couldn't go in the building. It was too intense. And this is ridiculous. So I just took a deep breath, went inside, and I could feel her at the other end of the room. The way the building was set up was like a basketball court-sized hall with lots of airy workshop space, bedrooms at one end, kitchen at the other. So we kind of kept our distance from each other for about a day. And in the end, she walked up to me and said, "This is ridiculous. Who are you?" And that sort of popped that. And then I think about 18 months later, we were married with a baby on the way. And it's like life. You said you're going this way really fast. Now, what happened? We were brought through a series of 4 modalities that were brought into our life. The first one being Ramana Maharshi satsang, the path of self-inquiry. Another one was through the work of Byron Katie. Again, there's that word about looking at the judgments of other people, getting the externalized world and reading your own internal judgment. Remember, we judge ourselves with self-doubt. We're not right as we are, so we have to be someone in the world. So there's a lot of judgments and feeling bad that actually attract the experiences. They come from those feelings and then reflect them back to us. It feels to us like we're having experiences that prove why we're not right as we are. It's the other way around. So getting out from under these judgments is really important. So there's a methodology to do that, which Byron Katie brought in. Another one was family system constellation work, which was brought in by Bert Hellinger, about undoing generational trauma. So the same process that happens in an individual's life can then create an imbalance within a system. All families are systems. Just like any system, if any part's out of whack, the whole system feels it. So this gets passed on through generations. So he had a methodology of dealing with that. And the other one was through the work of David Deida, which is about getting sacred masculine and divine feminine back in correct order. He said all life comes from the female. All power comes from the female, and all life throughout the universe in gestation starts female, and a mutation happens at some point where the male occurs. So there's a right order. So consciousness comes first, then the ego, because the ego is simply a thought, which of course a thought can't exist without consciousness. So that's who we really are. And then the mind forms from that. So these modalities were really brought to us, and we lived them for 25 years. We had our job when we got married. We went to the Sinai Desert for a satsang retreat, Ramana Maharshi, for about 10 days. And my wife was pregnant with our daughter. But we went through this whole global process. We had to go to New York. We had to go to Canada. We had to go to Sinai Desert. We went to Egypt. We stood in front of the Sphinx and got completely hit with energy. Both of us just stood there and went, whoa. We had to go into the center of the pyramid while she was pregnant. That was like being plugged into a PowerPoint. There was a whole process that went on there. And then they told us in the Sinai Desert that they described us as undercover agents, and we were told we needed to live the life of a householder, to hold this and then go all the way into everything they throw at you to stop you living from your heart and following that path, despite the fact that everything around you is pulling you into a different way of being. That was extremely intense. But those modalities, we had to live them combined together to get through it. So that's part of what this is about, is bringing those modalities together so that to help people deal with what's playing out. My wife's at the moment going through a bit of a study process, so we're hoping to be able to put that together in a really tangible form as we move into the new year. So we're working on that at the moment, but that's kind of where it's heading. And of course, people are getting ready for that. It's like intersecting trajectories. And I can see that playing out right now. Like there's a shift happening in the mood in the online community. It's like there's a need forming that nothing really is touching yet. So that's still playing out. But my feeling is that these modalities and that growing need will all kind of connect next year. So January, the Arcturian said to me this year, you will not end the year in the same situation with which you began. And this is the human race. They showed me September was highlighted and they called it the slingshot. And then it was like a pebble that was shot out from September. So October, November, some very key events would play out. And we're seeing that happen now. And then it would skip from December into next year. And so the next 18 months, I think we'll see a lot of this unraveling of the story around us, which is already collapsing. The more they try, those of the interference try to hold on to their plan, the more they're blowing their cover. They're having to accelerate it to match the accelerating rate that the human race is waking up. And of course they can't. So it's all about to fall apart. However, this will all come together so that we can actually perhaps help people if they want to connect with it. You know, they called satsang true north. Instead of trying to fix the world out there so we can be happy, see how our point of view, maybe the point of view is the problem. So Ramana said, meet the feeling, let the feeling be there, let the story be there, and then question the story. Is it true? Can you really know it's true? Now that's really intense, but that's essentially the scenario that all of us have been held in the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's had a massive effect on everyone's subconscious without realizing it. That's why it's so hard. You don't realize that the impact that just hitting the wall, oh my God, like I did, like Katie did, like I'm sure you did, all of us have. We hit the wall. I can't keep doing this. I don't know what it is, but I can't keep doing it. I don't know what to do. Once you hit that, you can't go back. That's got you. You can't experience that moment. It's like, what's the real truth? That has a profound effect on the paradigm's starting point, which is subconscious. So, of course, that's why we can't see what to do. We don't understand the belief system layers that run it because they're below our consciousness. But by breaking apart, let's say, the concrete between them all, it's created gaps where think of it like a jigsaw puzzle with missing pieces that we've been trying to put together all the wrong way around. Now those gaps are allowed to be there. So those missing pieces rearrange the arrangement of the picture. So that's the process that's forming, and it's about to accelerate in a major way. So these 4 pillars of the transition are about helping people really move through that consciously and connect with the reality of what's playing out in their own personal life. Like the truck driver from, Wapping. Why should he care what we're talking about? Well, because it directly affects exactly everything that everyone on the planet's living through.
Yeah.
We're all one. We're all a microcosm of what's happening out there.
We're all one, but we're also individuals.
Yeah. Like a wave on an ocean.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not. I can't.
What was that from?
Monty
We're all
Boy.
individuals. I'm not.
The Life of Brian, who was
I love that movie.
Tom's firstborn.
Yeah, right. That's right.
I love that. The funny thing about Tom as a name for God is that it's a bit like calling your dad by his first name. It just feels a little bit uncomfortable.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah.
I like it. Why not?
Why not? Yeah. And I mean, it's like the morning, the evening, and the mid-noon is just another way to say all it is. That's Egypt. Harmakos was Greece. He linked them to the Atlantean colonies, and Teote was Peru. So their key points: Egypt, Greece, and Peru. What happened in Atlantis, Australia being part of exposing the control system with mass migration and what they're trying to do. China was meant to be taking over Australia. They were given the head of the table, this cabal group. You get the spoils now. It's your turn. That's all playing out.
I've been saying this since the beginning. Gareth has ruined me for all others. I will join Q&As with all sorts of teachers I followed for years, and I will have no questions because I will save them all for Gareth. I don't know if you can sense that from the last hour, but if you have a question about Egypt and the Sphinx or the gender war that's happening or climate change, Gareth can explain at a nuclear physicist level, and it's mind-blowing. He has ruined me for everybody.
Well, the thing is, when there's a day with an agenda, it simplifies everything. Like, who are they and what do they want? They're looking for a way to make the transition with you, is what God said. And they've been keeping us in a holding pattern for 12,000 years while they figure it out. And unfortunately for them, fortunately for us, there was never a way. And we're way too. There are ramifications for what happens when you put multiple races in a single light space vehicle race, which is the power of free will. Our creative power is unique, and it's incredibly powerful. We're too strong, way too strong for them. So our job was to go all the way into the physical, take everything they can throw at you, and then come all the way back up to 5D. And for the first time in the history of the universe, a single race has the entire playbook in their direct experience, all of it. There's nothing, when we come out the other side, that every single pattern behind how they operate is now in consciousness for the first time in the history of the universe. And because we're genetically connected to the entire galaxy, just like humanity is a collective consciousness, our experience is available in the collective consciousness of all races in the galaxy. So what comes next after open contact and we're brought up to speed is we go back out into the galaxy and we connect the dots for everyone. That was done because those of the interference have been moving through this galaxy for a long time, and it's been creating an imbalance in masculine, feminine. The illusion of polarity it has to be in balance. And if darkness is being made into a thing when it isn't. That's been throwing out the fundamental fabric, if you like, of the universe. So that's the role of the human race, is to correct that imbalance and put the awareness into the entire universe of exactly what the problem's been. That's in a form that's available to every being in the universe. So that's why all eyes are on Earth. It's having a profound effect on every civilization throughout the universe, not just this galaxy. So there are lots of implications for that. But the Galactic Federation is here. Atlas is part of that Star of Bethlehem thing. We were told, my wife was told about 10 years ago, to look for this marker, that a civilization would turn up with motherships and an energy would begin. We would be drawn towards that mothership, and the energy of that will pull all of this karmic imbalance that Tom called the bottlenecking of souls. The strategy was to keep us stuck. We had to keep on reincarnating to fix the problems we'd created because we acted on it. That's pulling all of that out of us. That's why it's so intense right now. But it will, very.
It is very intense. Which is why
there's a lot more, but
oh yeah, I can tell. And there's a lot more bad jokes in me as you were talking about all the motherships. I was going to say, where are the fatherships? Down the pub. Because it's so important. It's so important. And everything you're saying is what I've been telling my kids for 20 years. And some of it's rubbed off, I'm pleased to say. And their consciousness about things like problem, reaction, solution, the teenagers, they're working it out. It's brilliant. And I'm constantly saying, you know stuff that would have made my life completely different. And that's what's happening. And it's consciousness rising. And it's going to be an interesting, because are you putting a time on this, Gareth? Did you say 18 months, or did I imagine?
I was told that by the Arcturians, that because of the rate the human race is waking up, that, and again, the point where open contact physically connects with everyone on the planet is it's a moving point because of the free will process. So no one can pin it down only because of that, because it could happen sooner, a little bit sooner, a little bit later, but roughly the middle of 2027. Now, it could be I was shown that the first phase would be them connecting with people at our level, let's say, and that would be kept secret. So there would be a connection between the white hat groups behind the government. The Arcturians call it a pincer move. That top level's always been there. What's never happened before is the people on the street. But together, when we connect the dots with what's been going on the big end of town and what's been happening in our direct experience in our own personal life, that's what the first phase is to get all of us who are ready for that point to connect directly with them. Then it gets moved out publicly in a couple of phases. So that is probably what would start in middle of 2027. But the fact that they are here, they exist, and it takes that question off the table, that has to come as well.
Well, that is the big question of the day, and our hour is up. But you guys have got to come back when the next big development with 3i Atlas happens. Come back on, because I think that's about to happen.
Thank you so much. Oh, absolutely. With 3i Atlas is all good news. It is, and AI is nothing to be feared. There's absolutely nothing to be feared. Period.
I'll just leave you with this. The Arcturian said to me, everything that's been taken from you will be given back. Everything that's been used against you will be turned back to the user. And
that's interesting, because in this other book that I wrote, I talk about how I learned this protection technique 15 years ago, and I adapted it, and I was always zapping them back like at billions of percent. And people would say, when I told them about this, they said, "No, you're supposed to send them to the light." I'm like, "No, not doing that."
Yeah, it's like a keto. You need to send it back.
I love Abby Wynn, by the way. I just had to shout out to Abby Wynn that she's fantastic. But that's all I wanted to say right there.
Well, look, you guys have been fantastic. Abby, she'll see this anyway. But thanks very much for joining me. Thanks for getting up early, Gareth. Thanks for doing what you're doing. I'll put a link below to your YouTube channel and anything else, and come back and see us again. But thanks for sharing today, and have a great day yourselves.
Thanks, awesome. Mark. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon.
Welcome, Mark. Thank you.